Hey, welcome back to Better Than Good Barbecue, the backyard cooking show for the average Joe. Today we're going to be making some beef plate ribs. These are some ribs that I got from Costco. These things are super flavorful, really delicious, really easy to cook. Let's get after it.
To trim these up, basically you just want to get rid of the silver skin here. I'm going to leave the rest of the fat cap on there. You just want to look for any of this stuff right there. It just doesn't eat very well, no matter how much you cook it. It won't render down. It's just unpleasant to eat. So go ahead and get rid of all that. And don't worry, you're not going to lose that much meat off the top. You'll see it's just going to be a little pile. And I'm going to leave, like I said, the rest of that fat cap. So we're going to work on this, and then we'll get to seasoning it up. Got the rest of that silver skin off. This is what you're left with. Now it's time to come in here with a binder. I prefer to use Worcestershire sauce for beef ribs. Just hit the tops and the sides. We're not going to worry about the bone side. So make sure you just get this all over where you want your rub to stick. Then I hit it with the SPG, or salt, pepper, and garlic rub that I made. This is kind of a base layer for these beef ribs. And again, you can season this liberally. It's a big piece of meat, so it can take however much seasoning you prefer. So after I get this salt, pepper, and garlic rub in there, I always come back and hit it with extra coarse ground black pepper. This is going to help form the bark. You'll see here in a little while. The more black pepper, just the better the bark looks, and it adds a good flavor. So I always come in there and hit it with some extra. And once I get the black pepper on there, get it all nice and coated and patted in. Finally, I come in and hit it with the barbecue rub that I made that doesn't have too much sugar. And then once I get that patted in, I'm going to go ahead and take it inside, let it rest for an hour, and I'll bring you right back.
So we're going to be running on the offset smoker today. I'll show you all how I set this up and get the fire going. Basically have a full charcoal chimney full of hot coals that's going to go directly into the firebox. And that's going to be our base, our coal base, and it's going to get the first piece of wood going. And then from there, we'll just keep adding pieces as we need it. So let me go ahead and get that going. I'll try not to cover it up too much. And this right here is post oak wood that I sourced from a guy locally. It's pretty much all I use when I'm cooking on the offset is post oak. It's just got a nice mild flavor. It doesn't overpower anything. It's great for beef. You can even use it for chicken as well. So, and it works for ribs. So anyway, that's what I run. And basically I just go straight on top of these coals with the first piece and let it catch. Just right on top like that. I'm gonna go ahead and get this door cracked slightly so the heat starts generating this way. But basically, once that catches and the heat comes, it'll transfer up through here and then out the smokestack over here. We'll put the ribs on right there when it comes up to temperature. The temperature goal for this cook is gonna be about 275 degrees, maybe a little hotter. You wanna cook beef ribs hotter because they have a fat membrane in there that you gotta break down. And you can't really do that at the 225 degree range. It just doesn't break it down efficiently for beef ribs. So anyway, I'm gonna get this fire going, bring it up to temperature, and then I'll bring y'all back when it's time to get them on. All right, we got our temperature up to 275. It'll probably climb a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and head inside, get the beef ribs, and put them on. Beef ribs on. Got them. This part's a little thicker than this side, so we got them thick side towards the firebox. We have a water pan in there that's going to help with some moisture. You always want to cook with those when you have an offset cooker. But anyway, got the beef ribs on. The thermometer's right about here, so we can gauge what temperature we're actually cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and let these roll at 275 degrees for about 3.5 hours. Then it'll be time to spritz them. So I'll bring you guys back out here when it's time to check on them. One thing I want to mention is we have a piece of wood up here on top of the firebox preheating. You always want to have a piece of wood that you're warming up so that when you throw it on the fire, it takes off with those flames immediately. So you maintain a thin blue smoke and you don't get that dirty white smoke that you never want to see in an offset. So anyway, that's just a tip I do. We'll go ahead and maintain some temperatures and bring you right back in about 3.5 hours. Good deal. She's holding right at 275. Plenty of time to drink a beer, maintain some temperatures, and have fun with it. Let's do it. All right, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes since we put the first log on and got it up to temperature. My temperature is starting to drop below 250, so I'm going to go ahead and put the other log on. It may get a little hotter than 275, but in the long run, it's not going to matter. Basically, just take this preheated log and throw it in. I'm going to leave the door open so that this can catch, get those flames going, thin blue smoke, get the temperature up. I'm going to go ahead and grab another log and set it right up here, preheat it. So about in an hour, a little over an hour, I can do the same thing. We'll be right back. Oh yeah, those are coming along nice. I actually don't think I need a spritz just yet. Nothing looks too burned. They got a nice color forming. They have a little bit of pooling up here, but I'm not too worried about that. We're gonna just keep letting them roll here for a little bit. We'll come back and check on them in about 30-45 minutes, see how they're looking. I'll bring you right back. All right, the ribs have been on for about 3 hours and 45 minutes. I think it's time to go ahead and rotate them. So this side has been towards the firebox the whole time. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick it up and rotate them to where they cook evenly. They're looking great. I don't think it's time to spritz yet even. Nothing's looking too overcooked or hard or anything like that. I just want to make sure that heat is gonna hit them from this side and cook them as evenly as it did this side. So I'm gonna close it. I'll bring you guys back here in about 30-45 minutes, see what they're looking like and check the temperature. The ribs have been on for about 4 hours and 15 minutes. Let's take a look at how the bark's forming. And look at that. They're looking really good. I think at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and start spritzing with a mixture of apple cider vinegar, water, and some hot sauce. And when I say hot sauce, I mean something like Cholula, things of that nature. So I'm gonna go ahead and start spritzing a little bit. This is gonna protect that bark. And I think it adds a little bit of flavor, but not enough to really note. Get them good and wet. We'll come back here in about half an hour, see how they're doing. All right, y'all, it's been another half hour. I'm gonna go ahead and check the temperature on these. The bark is looking really nice. Let the smoke clear a little bit. Bark is forming really nice. It looks really even since we rotated it. I'm gonna go ahead and see what the temperature's doing real quick. We're reading about 185. And that's usually, usually I wrap about this time, 180, 185. You don't want to wrap these too early. You really want the bark to form before you wrap them in butcher paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all how I wrap them up. Just get you some pink butcher paper. Get you a nice roll. I just take them, set them meat side down first because you're gonna wrap them up and then flip them. And there's really no rules to it. Make sure you wrap it tight. You preserve all that moisture. Flip this underneath. And then go right back on. Bone side down. And I'm actually gonna rotate them to where the thicker side is pointed towards the firebox to finish them out. I'll let them roll like that for about 20-30 more minutes and come check the temperature. I'll bring y'all right back. The ribs have been on wrapped up for about 30 to 45 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the temperature is doing. Oh yeah, they're sitting right at 200 degrees. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but the instant read thermometer is reading 200. But more importantly, these things are just sliding in and out. It's like butter. When I poke in, this just glides. No matter where I don't want to put too many holes in there, but everywhere I go, it's just butter. And And that's really what you're after. You're really looking for the texture. I mean, as well as the temperature, it should be about 200 degrees, if not right at 200. But if this thing weren't feeling like butter, I would go ahead and carry it over to 204, 205 and get it to where it does feel like butter. But since these are perfect, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take these off and set them in a cooler, put foil over them, close the cooler. It's just a dry cooler, room temperature, no ice or anything. And let it rest for about 45 minutes. Need that muscle to relax, reabsorb some of the moisture. You never want to take these things straight off and just go to cutting. The most important part about cooking things like beef ribs and brisket and really any meat is that you let it rest. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do now. I'll bring y'all back here in a second. So it's time to rest these things in the cooler. I just have a regular cooler here with some foil down at the bottom to catch some of the juice. More so just so I don't ruin the cooler. I'm gonna go ahead and throw those in there. Put a little bit of foil on top of them. And just cover them up like that, put them to bed, just close the lid and let them hang out like that for about 45 minutes. And then we'll come back out, slice them up, see how we did, do a taste test. We'll see y'all here in a little bit. The ribs have been resting in the cooler for about 45 minutes. So let's go ahead and unwrap them, see how we did, see how the bark looks, all that good stuff. All right. Just what I want to see. Look at that bark. Look at that bark. Man, I hope y'all can see that on the camera. Golly, these things are beautiful. They're just tender as can be. I just can't wait to slice into them real quick. Let me cut into it. We'll see how it did. I'm expecting a good smoke ring, and basically when you cut into them, there's no trick to it. It's just in between the bones, obviously. So here we go. Oh man. Golly, that smells so good just right when I cut into it. Look at that. Look at that right there. I'm gonna get it close to the camera for you. Look at how we did there. You can see that band of fat that I was talking about earlier is completely rendered out. That's from us cooking it at 275 degrees and not 225 degrees. We ramped up the heat a little bit. That rendered that out. The flies want some, but anyway, it looks great. I mean, I'm just so excited. And they call this brisket on a stick, but it's actually, to me, it tastes way better than the brisket point. It's just so flavorful and tender. That bark that we created with the rub we put on there and how we cooked it in the offset smoker. Golly, I just can't wait any longer. I got to take one bite. So here we go. Let's see how we did. I'm just going to bite right into it on the top here. Man, that is so good. How tender that is and the flavors that come through. I know I got it all over my face, but the flavors that meat produces is indescribable. If you have not had a beef rib before, you got to try these out. They are just so flavorful, so tender. I got to get another bite. I mean, think of the best brisket you've ever had. Multiply it by 2 and then add some tenderness on top of that. This is just amazing. Golly, that offset smoker produces such a good flavor. We burnt some post oak wood in there. We maintained 275 degrees. We cooked them unwrapped for 5 hours. And then we wrapped them up for the last hour just to get some of that moisture, retain some of it. And then we let it sit in the cooler for about 45 minutes. And this is the result. Man, these things are great. These offset smokers, the stick burners, personally, that's the only way to go. All you guys out there, guys, girls, using Traegers, pellet poopers, whatever you want to call it, Green Mountain Grills, Pit Boss. Now, I don't like to say this, but you know, you're doing it wrong. That's not the way to do it. The only way to do barbecue, in my opinion, is with a stick burner. You're never gonna get this result with a pellet pooper, with a Traeger. I'm sorry, but you're just not. So don't be scared of the offset smoker. It's not gonna hurt you to try it out. Go ahead and get you some post oak sticks. Try this out. Great flavor. Cannot beat it. Remember, if your barbecue was just good, you could have had better. We'll see you next time.